Hari Om. We'll chant the invocation. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavit Vishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Verses 26 to 35.
अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युम् श्रुतिपरायणाः यावत् सञ्जायते किञ्चित् सत्त्वम् स्थावरजङ्गमम् क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञसंयोगात् तद्विद्धि भरतर्षभ समम् सर्वेषु भूतेषु तिष्ठन्तम् परमेश्वरम् विनश्यत्स्व विनश्यन्तम् यः पश्यति स पश्यति समम् पश्यन् हि सर्वत्र समवस्थितमीश्वरम् न हि नस्त्यात्मनात्मानम् ततो याति पराम् गतिम् प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारम् स पश्यति यदा भूतपृथग्भावम् एकस्थमनुपश्यति तत एव च विस्तारम् ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते तदा अनादित्वान्निर्गुणत्वात् परमात्मायमव्ययः शरीरस्थोऽपि कौन्तेय न करोति न लिप्यते यथा सर्वगतम् सौक्ष्म्यात् आकाशम् नोपलिप्यते सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे तथात्मानोपलिप्यते यथा प्रकाशयत्येकः कृत्स्नम् लोकमिमम् रविः क्षेत्रम् क्षेत्री तथा कृत्स्नम् प्रकाशयति भारत क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम् अन्तरम् ज्ञानचक्षुषा भूतप्रकृतिमोक्षम् च ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम्
We had done up till the 34th verse last time. 34th verse said, as the one sun illumines the whole world, so does the Kshetri, Lord of Field, illumine the whole Kshetra field, O Bharat. See, differentiation comes in the material world. As you get into the material world more and more, matter, the differentiation starts happening. At the spirit level, there is no differentiation. It is all one homogeneous reality. But as it percolates down into material vestures, then you start seeing one thing different from another. See, just like ink is the same when you do your writing in an ink pot, you look at the ink, it is one homogeneous, you cannot differentiate anything in it. It's just one pot of ink. Same, whichever way you take it, it's the same. But when you put it into writing, so many words come out of it. So many meanings and feelings are associated with those words. You can write so many stories out of it. You can write so many thoughts and ideas out of it. Everything comes out of that ink pot. Once you use the pen, you put it in the pen and then you start using. The ink doesn't have any words. The ink doesn't have any pictures or photographs. But out of that ink, all the volumes of literature that are present in the world, that are in the written form, have come from the same one homogeneous ink, and it displays so many ideas and thoughts, so many feelings and emotions of different nature. Whether it's a suspense story, whether it's an adventure story, whether it's a spiritual story, whatever story it is, it's all come from the same ink. But the ink is not differentiated in any way. When you go back into the ink pot, let's say those words can go back into the ink pot, then they again assume their original state, their original homogeneous state. So the ink has so much potential. They are all there in the potential form, but there is no differentiation until you put it through a ink pen and then you start writing over it. Similarly, there is one homogeneous consciousness. That consciousness, when you are able to experience it directly, you will realize everything comes from the consciousness, but the consciousness is not in any way differentiated. There are no worlds and universes in the consciousness. There are no people and beings and objects in the consciousness. Yet, all consciousness, all objects and beings have come from that consciousness. Now, because we constantly function at the surface level of our consciousness, which is inflicted by materialism, which is inflicted by matter, therefore, that consciousness appears to be split up into so many names and forms. And each name and form has its own story, its own history, in its own way or nature. We get involved in it. We get involved in that single story of a human being. And out of that, we try to create a whole, some experience, a complete experience, a total experience. There are glimpses of happiness that you get, glimpses of understanding you get, but then it disappears. So your journey constantly you're pursuing something, but you're pursuing it through these material forms that you perceive. So you have the happiness that you get out of that is merely an illusory, imaginative experience. It is not actually there. It appears to be there. A person can achieve happiness out of the same thing, and on another time he may not experience happiness out of that. A person may experience happiness in a particular situation, or in the same situation he can experience unhappiness. These fluctuations which constantly take place in the level of the mind, they keep you deluded. You're constantly involved in the workings of the mind. and the mind keeps on springing up various experiences of happiness. So you get caught up in the play of the mind, and you start centering yourself into getting the happiness through the mind, not understanding that this happiness which you are experiencing through the mind is elusive. It is not there, but yet it gives you a very concrete way of feeling that happiness is there. See, a person who earns 50,000 rupees a month, he gets a raise of 20,000. He is very happy. He comes home with a box of sweets and he calls his friends and celebrates. A person who is earning 10 crores in a year and his output comes down to, on a particular year, comes down to 8 crores. He is concerned, he is worried, he feels distressed by that amount. Now, if you compare 70,000 and 8 crores, uh, 70,000 into 12 will be about 8 lakhs, 8.5 lakhs. So, where is 8.5 lakhs per year and where is 8 crores per year? But that man is worried, is in a unhappy state. Whereas this person who has just got a raise of 20,000, he is in a happy state. How is it that a person of less amount is happier than a person of a larger amount? See, tomorrow, if his salary goes up to 1 lakh and suddenly it comes down to 70, he will also be unhappy. It is all a matter of contrast, relativity. Something gives you happiness today, it doesn't give you tomorrow. And it gives you happiness only as long as the contrast remains. After some time, 70,000 doesn't appear good to him. Now he wants another raise because he was comparing it with 50,000. As long as that comparison was there, he was happy. But once the comparison is forgotten, now he's got used to 70,000. Now he has nothing to compare to. So he is neutralized. So he wants 90,000 or 1 lakh. This happiness which comes out of a comparative state. Now, another very interesting thing is whenever there are tournaments, the person who comes first, second, and third, the person who comes second is always less happier than the person who comes third. Now, what is the psychology behind it? The person who comes second, he is playing the final and he is playing for the first spot. But in comparison to the first spot, he gets the second spot. So he is unhappy. Now, the third fellow is playing for the third and the fourth spot, and he happens to get the third spot. So, semi-finalists, the losers, play amongst themselves for the third and fourth spot. So, he is playing for the third and fourth spot, and if he gets the third spot, he is happy because he did not get the fourth spot. The second is unhappy because he did not get the number one spot. Now imagine a person who has come second is unhappy. The person who has come third is happy. It's just the play of the mind. There is no happiness in the first, second, third, fourth. If India never got even bronze medal and suddenly it gets one bronze medal, suddenly the person becomes a big hero. Because you're comparing it from nothingness. At least you got something. So you're very happy. Now this is how the mind plays. After some time, if for next 3, 4, 5 years you keep on getting only one bronze, then again the people are unhappy. because they got used to that one bronze. They want to get something better. So some year you get three, four bronze or one silver, and then there is again ecstasy. So like this, the mind keeps on getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the illusion. It keeps on losing its happiness and keeps on pursuing and getting into deeper and deeper waters of Maya. It is not able to come out of it. And the more you deeper you get into Maya, the more differentiated it becomes, more pluralistic it becomes. And per unit, happiness also becomes less. So something which used to give you deep happiness earlier gives you almost nothing now. So you want to get something more and more out of it. Even 5 lakhs are not enough. 6 lakhs are not enough. 7 lakhs are not enough. It goes on getting deeper and deeper into taking you. Now, at some point, you get desperate. At some point, you wonder, what are you doing? Morning to evening, you're working so much. But at the end of it, you're still finding this sense of dissatisfaction within yourself. Is there any real true happiness? You've walked so many, you've driven so many kilometers. There's no restaurant to be seen on this road. So you start wondering whether there is any restaurant here or not. So you, at some point, you must turn around and go back. So you find there is no, this play of the mind constantly keeps you engaged. It keeps you in hope. Moment you get a little success or little happiness, hope gets ignited and you feel, oh yes, there is hope. But when you get to the top of the mountain, you find what you were expecting, it's not that. It's not really what you expected. So you want to go somewhere else, something different. So like this, a person constantly is pursuing happiness but never actually happy. Is constantly pursuing, like a mirage in a desert. Is constantly pursuing, but there is no happiness there. So a person who is used to coming first every time in the class is always worried whether he will be first next time or not. A person who is used to coming somewhere in the middle of the class suddenly comes on the top five. He gets very excited. But that excitement is only momentarily. It is not going to stay there. Next time he is worried whether he will be able to keep up that performance or not. Now we want happiness which is sustaining, which is always there. Every time we get salary, we spend it. Again, we are on the road. Again, we work. We get salary. Again, we spend it. Again, we are on the road. This type of arrangement is not what we are looking for. We are looking for eternal happiness. Eternal happiness comes by going back into the self, into your pure nature, into your higher nature, into that supreme nature. So once you go back into that supreme nature, you find that your happiness is more sustaining, more deepening, and you more satisfying. It sustains itself. So that consciousness, that pure consciousness, untainted by these desires and attachments, it is complete, whole, fulfilling, absolute. So that consciousness is working in this whole universe, is sustained by that consciousness. It is there in the plants also. It is there in the animals also. It is there in the human beings also. Consciousness is not different. What is different is the equipment. An animal is an animal because of the equipment that he has. A human being is a human being because of the equipment it has. But behind all the equipments is the same consciousness. Animal is also connected to the same consciousness. But it has, when it percolates or functions through this particular equipment, it becomes absolutely dim. The intelligence becomes absolutely dim. It becomes very limited, very constricted. In human beings, it is more aware, it is more flowered. But in a human being, he can get over this taint of the equipments, of the mental functioning, the interception of the mental functioning, and achieve that supreme state of pure consciousness. That pure consciousness. Like last time also we were saying that pure consciousness even in your senses, when the pure consciousness functions through your eyes, there is a expression of sight. When the same consciousness functions through your ears, there is an expression of hearing, experience of hearing, through the tongue, taste, touch, through the skin, and smell through the nose. The same consciousness is functioning through the eyes and the ears and the nose and skin and tongue. Same consciousness. But the experiences are totally different. Sight is totally different from hearing. Hearing is totally different from fragrance. Fragrance is totally different from touch and taste. But behind these differentiations is the same power that makes you see. It is not what you see, it is what makes you see. It is not what you hear, it is what makes you hear. But you get so involved in the expression that you forget that which is helping you gain that expression or that experience. You forget that, you get disconnected from that, and you get caught up in the expression. So the one sun illumines the whole world, so the Kshetri, the lord of the field, illumines the whole Kshetra field, the whole field. Everything is experienced by that pure consciousness, that one consciousness. So we must not get involved in the intercepting layers between ourselves and the consciousness. The intercepting layers are the thoughts, the desires, the attachments, the emotions that you have. You get caught up. They are connected to the world outside. They are connected to the objects outside. And in that you are struggling to find fulfillment through desires. Desires never get fulfilled. Desires only get magnified. And they take you more and more into the pluralistic life, a pluralistic world. So he who has given up all desires of the mind, even at a relative level, you must understand, when love functions through desire, it becomes attachment. It becomes differentiated. I like this person more. I don't like this person. I like this culture more. I don't like that culture, etc. It starts differentiating. When knowledge functions through conditioning or desires, then there is a differentiation. You get conditioned. This is my viewpoint. This is how I think. This is how it is. But you don't see the underlying truth. You only see the external opinions and ideas and think that you are right. Everybody thinks he is right. Everybody is seeing it from their point of view. If nobody is seeing it from the absolute point of view. Nobody wants to see it from the absolute point of view. You only want to see it from your particular window that you are seeing. If you shift the window, the scene also changes. You go to the opposite window, you go to the other side, and through the other window, the scene different. But the scene is one. Windows are many, but the panoramic view is the same. It depends from which window you are trying to see. So you see a part of it, a limited part of it. And whatever you see, you think that is it. And the person who is talking from the other window and explaining something else, you think that is false, that is wrong. You don't understand that he is also viewing the same view that you are viewing. But he is seeing it from a different window. You are seeing it from a different perspective, from a different angle. So there is a fight between two people, even though they are talking the same thing, but yet there are fight. They are talking, explaining, and addressing the same view. The same view has been explained from different angles, from different windows, from different ways, but still they are fighting. And they are thinking this is right, that is not right. So once you understand the substratum, the underlying truth, underlying reality, the differentiations melt away, they go away. Even the biggest of differences melt away once you understand the reality, the truth. There was so much of bad blood between Karna and the Pandavas. Karan hated Pandavas and the Pandavas hated Karan. But the moment they came to know that he is their brother, and Karan came to know that he is their brother, immediately everything melted away. What happened? It's the same person, the same circumstances, the same history, but everything melted away and they felt such strong feelings for each other. The Pandavas had such strong feelings of remorse that they had to kill Karan. Something they were celebrating suddenly turned into a experience of great grief. It is, where are you connecting yourself from? Where are you associating yourself? What is your angle? What is your viewpoint? That depends. Your viewpoint changes, the whole scene changes. So Vedanta is telling us that we are suffering our own limitations. We are not rooted in suffering, we are rooted in happiness. But unfortunately, because of our viewpoint that we hold, the thoughts which we hold, the mental constructs that we hold, and we are so attached to it, we are so caught up in it, that we fail to understand the total viewpoint, the totality, the reality. We fail to understand it. You're not suffering the world. You're suffering your own restrictions, your own attachments, your own mental clingings. And they appear so real. They appear so true to you that you're not ready to leave it. Even though we suffer, we're not ready to leave it. So, a person who understands this, that I am only talking from my own conditioning, this is not the truth, and he wants to investigate into the truth, he wants to understand what the reality or the truth is, he makes an effort to investigate. Even to reach that state where you are ready to investigate is a very elevated state. People are so caught up in their viewpoints, so caught up with their own uh, ideas and conclusions, that they're not even ready to investigate. If you don't agree to them, they make a great enemy of you. You may be telling the other person for his benefit, for his happiness, for his progress, but he'll not listen to you. He'll make an enemy out of you. So we have to understand that we need to look within ourselves. The most difficult thing is to look within yourself and understand, where am I going wrong? Where am I not perceiving it? Why am I affected by the external world, external things? Why am I affected? So we have to look within and try to understand. Yes, Manisha. Manisha, you wanted to
नहीं
ask
सर,
something.
नहीं सर, गलती से कर दिया था,
Acha.
वो लग गया था.
So we need to look into our conclusions. We have given our owners of happiness to the world, to the object. If I don't get this object, I'm miserable. If people don't agree with my viewpoint, I'm miserable. So I've given my charge of happiness completely to the external world. Whereas Vedanta says that you can be happy from within yourself. It is free. It is unconditional, that happiness. For the object, you have to work so hard to get it. And how long it will stay with you, that also we don't know. And for that temporary feeling of thrill or excitement, you work so hard and you get it for some time. And you're happy, and then it's gone, and then again you're back into darkness. But here is the happiness which is waiting for you to be received, waiting for you to get it. And there is no effort required, in the sense that it is there. You have to only let go of your delusion, of your negativities, of the thoughts that you are holding on to. You don't have to work for it. It is there. It is inherent. It is not got because of something. It is there. Unconditionally it is there. And it is free of charge. No, nothing is required. And it is eternally there. But we Because we are so caught up with the outside thing, we are so deluded, we are so convinced that if I get the outside world, even this much of the outside world, I'll be very happy. I will gain a lot of happiness out of it. This keeps you constantly pursuing the world and disregarding something which is inherent, the solution which is inherent inside you. You are disregarding that solution. Your whole attention is to find the solution outwardly, externally. And therefore, the problem remains a problem. It never gets resolved. Why am I agitated because of this? Why am I unhappy because of this? Why am I affected because of it? You think the fault is the other person. Even if the fault is the other person, if it is his fault, why are you agitated? Why are you unhappy? What are you pursuing? What is your understanding about the world? So once your understanding about the world is correct, your expectations drop away, your wrong assessment drops away, and you become peaceful and contained within yourself. And you pursue the truth, the reality. The truth or reality is not affected by external things. Like the 33rd verse, he says, the all pervading space, as is not tainted due to the subtlety, so also the self seated in the body is not tainted. The body is affected by the objects of the world. The more you recede into the self, it is not affected by the world. The more you recede into the truth is not affected in any way by what is happening outside in the world. It remains as it is. But you are not connected to the truth. You are connected to your opinions and ideas. You are connected to your own false derivations of things. You are not connected to the truth. You don't want to understand the truth. You are only connected to the world and its fabrication. So once I endeavor to find out what is true happiness, what is true knowledge, what is true love, what is true freedom, once I endeavor to find that out, then the mind will slowly give away its habits or its pursuits, its delusion, and it will come to rest in the self. And that resting in the self, it will gain peace and happiness that it is looking for. The happiness is not the outside, happiness is inside. You have to work through your own mind, your own ideas, your own attachments, your own beliefs. You have to work through them. The truth is shining through them, but you're not able to catch the truth. You're able to catch the distortion, but you're not able to catch the truth. Like if I throw a light through a mirror, the light gets distorted because of the whatever color the mirror has or whatever distortions the mirror has. The light gets distorted because of that. You're not able to see the light as it is. So the consciousness gets distorted because of the mind. The mind deflects it and distorts it. So once the distortion is removed, so you are in touch with God, but you don't understand God. You don't experience God. You don't experience that happiness, but you are in touch with it. You are in touch with reality, but the reality has got distorted, so you don't understand it. So therefore, the three yogas tell us how to connect back to that reality, to that truth. And having realized the truth, then when you live in the world doesn't affect you because you know what the truth is. Sorry, the light had suddenly gone away. So took some time to get it back. We'll do the 35th verse now. क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम् अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा भूतप्रकृतिमोक्षं च ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम् क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम् अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा भूतप्रकृतिमोक्षं च ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम्. They who with the eye of wisdom perceive thus the distinction between Kshetra field and Kshetrajna knower of field and liberation of beings from Prakriti matter, they go to the Supreme. So this is the last verse of the chapter 13. The distinction between the field and the knower of the field. Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Now, here is explaining to us, giving us a concept of the eye of wisdom. They who with the eye of wisdom perceive the distinction between Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So how do you understand the difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna? See, we go back to the same basic principles. We have got the information, then we got the reflect on it, and then Nidhi Dhyasana. We have to experience it. Now, we have understood it through the chapter. We have studied the chapter, and we have recognized that the Kshetra is everything to do with the sense objects, with the mind, with our attachments, with the ego, etc. We have understood what is. And he who experiences all this is the Kshetrajna, the knower of the Kshetra. So this information we have gathered and we have gained. But this doesn't directly lead us to the Supreme. We know it, but we go back into our world, into our lives in a normal way, in just what we were before we got into the class, and after getting away from the class, we are back into the same way. But the thing is, how do we get connected to the Supreme? How do we go to the Supreme? So this knowing is not an intellectual knowing. It is not something which has to be known through the senses or through the mind or through the intellect also. The eye of wisdom, it's a perception that you create, where you are clearly able to see the difference between that consciousness and what appears like non-conscious, the matter and the spirit. You're able to see it. It cannot be known through intellectual debates. It has to be known through the clarity of perception. The light and the distorting medium. When you see the difference between the light and the distorting medium, you know the medium is different from the light. Through your perception, see, you will still see by the senses, you will see the light still being distorted. Through your mind, you will see and experience the world. But from the eye of wisdom, you will recognize the truth, the reality. So when your wisdom is awakened, now wisdom is not gotten from the outside. Wisdom is gotten from the inside. You can gain knowledge from the outside, but wisdom is gotten from the inside. So once my inner perception has got cleared, it is no more distorted by the other elements, no more distorted. Then by that eye of wisdom, when I see it, and I can clearly see the difference between the truth and the untruth, the real and the unreal, the transcendental and the terrestrial. can clearly see the difference. That then such a person goes to the Supreme. That Supreme is not a subject of our senses. It is not the subject of our debates or opinions or theories. It is the self knows the self by the self. But through the eye of wisdom, you can clearly see the difference between false happiness and true happiness, attachment and love, conditioning and unconditioning. Through that eye of wisdom, you can clearly perceive. We are not talking about it, we are not discussing, we are not logically confronting it. We can clearly distinguish between the truth and the false. So, such a person who, through the eye of wisdom, perceives the distinction between Kshetra and Kshetrajna and the liberation of beings from Prakriti matter. See, sometimes you should know what is the true end of knowledge. One of the qualities of a jnani. Perception of the true end of knowledge. हमें थोड़ा सा आ जाता है, हम थोड़ा समझ जाते हैं, हमें थोड़ा सा एलिवेशन हो जाता है spiritually. We think that is it. We have achieved a lot, or we know the truth. We become very pompous. We become very egoistic about our knowing or achievements, which is nothing to do with the reality actually. You wrongly perceive it, wrongly understand it. But it's just an intellectual understanding at the most. Sometimes even that is not there. It's an intellectual understanding. You don't have a direct understanding of that thing. So we get caught up. Thoda sa, a person gets a little siddhi of some type, or he becomes very knowledgeable about something. He starts thinking that he is superior to others. The very fact that he thinks he is superior to others, that itself means he doesn't know the truth. Because there is no superior or inferior in consciousness. In reality, there is no distinction between everybody is the expression of the same reality. The moment you start, knowledge starts making you feel superior. That is not knowledge. The first quality of knowledge is vinamrata, humility. So a person who is doesn't see that sense of oneness everywhere, sense of oneness with all beings and all creation, he doesn't have knowledge, he doesn't have understanding. His eye of wisdom is not awakened. You see, uh, as a symbolical representation, they show Shiva as a third eye, which is in the center of his forehead. That is a symbolical representation of the fact that his understanding is awakened to the truth, is awakened to the reality. He can clearly distinguish between what is the true and what is the false, what is the real and what is the unreal. We are not able to do that. We get caught up in the unreal and thinking it is the real. We get caught up in the false happiness, thinking it is the true happiness. Even a little bit of peace or happiness we get, we start thinking we have gained something true or real. So that is because we have not actually conceived the truth. We have not actually, so that is perishable. That will again go away. It will not sustain. It will not retain itself. So they who with the eye of wisdom perceive the distinction between Kshetra and Kshetra. So you have to awaken that inner perception. Inner perception cannot be given to you. It has to be awakened from you. Yes, it can be given in the sense that you can be supported, you can be directed, you can be guided, like a coach guides the player and he wins the tournament or he gets a Wimbledon title. But the coach cannot win it for him. He can help him win it, but he cannot win it for him. Similarly, a guru or the Shastras guide us to that reality, guide us to that inner awakening, direct us away from the false and constantly keep us connected to the reality. But ultimately, that effort or that letting go of the false has to come from us. So once that knowledge has been converted into wisdom, knowledge has been, the distortion has been removed. Yeah, mm, if there is a slight coloration in the mirror or in the glass, then that coloration distorts your perception. When that coloration is totally removed, you can clearly see across the mirror or the glass, and you can see actually what is on the other side without any distortion. So similarly, when your consciousness is cleansed of all vasanas, of all desires, of all conditionings, then you are directly in contact with that reality, and you merge in that world and become one with it. So such is the person, they go to the Supreme. If you constantly consider the false as the truth and keep on getting misdirected towards it, you want some siddhi or you want to become like Lord Brahma so that you become the ruler of the world. All these are misdirections. They are not directing to you towards the Atman. They are misdirecting you into the world. Something in the world you consider as the reality. You're not able to distinguish. In the 8th chapter you would have read, he who is able to distinguish between the day and night of Brahma. Day and night of Brahma goes into millions of years, one day. He is able to distinguish, even if that much happiness and that much power is given to you, even then you can understand the distinction. Our mind gets deluded. If somebody gives you a lot of wealth, people become very egoistic. People lose their balance. They get power. They're made into some position. But a person who understands this is as perishable and as useless as any other achievement. It has a temporary use, but it is not the reality. It is not going to take you to that truth. Even if the whole world and its whole sovereignty is given to you, and still you are able to understand that this is also perishable, even this will pass away. You are able to maintain the same attitude, the same consideration towards it as you were to the earlier things, even if the whole world is given to you. And such a person has gained the eye of wisdom. He can distinguish that this is not the reality. Sovereignty over the world is not reality. It is not the truth. Atman is the truth. So you have gained something which is still perishable. But because it is going to last you a long, long, long time, so you get deluded. That means your eye of wisdom is still not opened up. You still not got that clarity of what is the truth, what is the distinction between the truth and the untruth. You get still fooled and deluded by Maya. So a person who has understood it in its, even if a lot of happiness is given to you with reference to the world, still you will not lose your objectivity. Still you will not get attached to it. Still you will not lose your direction and pursuit of the truth. Because you know this looks very attractive. It may last also a long, long time. But this is not the truth. That you have to understand. So your mind doesn't get attached to it. Your intellect doesn't get carried away by it. And you constantly, even in and through that, you constantly continue to move towards the truth and understand the truth. Such a person who is able to do that, his wisdom has awakened, that he is not fooled even if Indra's position is given to him, Brahma's position is given to him. He doesn't get fooled by it. He constantly continues with the sadhana until he reaches that state of absolute happiness. So, with the eye of wisdom, he who is able to distinguish even the subtle differences of the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, where the person is about to meet the Atman, but still there is a distinction. He is able to understand that. So such a person achieves that highest state. He goes to that supreme state and merges and becomes one with it. My voice is really giving me a lot of trouble right now. So I think we'll conclude the class here only. we'll say the concluding verse. Om Tat Sadat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhaga Yogo Nama Trayodasho Dhyayaha. We'll chant the concluding verse and conclude the session. Om Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Hari
Hari
Om.
Om.
So we
Hari.
chant the first words also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before that's the tradition. So we'll chant it. Arjuna Uvacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Kshetram Kshetragyameva Cha Etadveditumicchami Yanam Geyam Cha Keshava. So that concludes the 13th verse. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank
Hari
you.
Om. Hari Om.